Mayor Halevi Weinstein, and a special guest we'll introduce shortly. So we're about to get started. Please start sharing this on your cell phone, laptop, computer, smoke signals, Morse code, whatever way you can get the word out. And here we go with another episode. Let's give people a few moments to click on. We got one or two clicking. Okay, guys, I'm going to introduce you, and I'll get you back on in a few minutes. So that's Mayor Halevi Weinstein will be our guest, joining us momentarily. I'm Dr. B in the studios here. And we do have a chat line which you can type in some messages or some comments, and please do so you can be part of it, not only watch, but actually be involved with our podcast. We found on various locations online, YouTube Live, Facebook Live, and now, just recently, we're on Twitter as well. Like us, join us, and share in the conversation. We do have a special guest, Brian Melrose, joining us. Brian's been a Communist Zionist from Northern Alberta. He was the advocacy coordinator for B'nai B'rith, and he's a member of Canada United with Israel, as well as Calgary United with Israel. And I like those names because they get to use the same logo for both names. It cuts my work in half. On October 12, 2015, Hassan Manasra and his cousin Ahmed, both of whom live less than 5 miles from central Jerusalem, decided to go on a Jew stabbing spree. In the Pisgat Zev neighborhood, which, by the way, incidentally, from a geographic standpoint, is the largest residential neighborhood in Jerusalem with over 50,000 Jews. Importantly, it was the capital of the tribe of Judah, as well as King Saul's palace. So as they continue to breed the terrorists and talk about occupation, it's been our land for thousands of years. During the stabbing intifada of 2015, there were 211 stabbings or attempted stabbings, 83 shootings, and 42 corner-ramming attacks, killing 30 Israelis and 2 Americans. On October 12, 2015, Hassan and his cousin Ahmed were armed with knives searching for targets, caught on surveillance video camera, despite the fact they continue to deny this ever happened. They're chasing a Jewish man, they stabbed him seriously, and they figure, okay, let's find some other targets. So after they stab him, he's running away bleeding. They search for more targets. They're there with their knives in hand. They go inside a candy store now. They see a 12-year-old Jewish boy leaving on his bicycle with some candy. So you can see at the top of the screen there, barely, but he's being stabbed. Critically. But they don't stop there, the two conniving cousins, these teenage terrorists. They see another target, a security guard across the street. And the Palestinians are calling this a murder in cold blood. He's coming at a security guard with a knife in hand. The false Palestinian narrative wants people to believe that with no provocation, a Palestinian child was murdered and another was run over and beaten by Zionist occupiers and then falsely arrested. Internationally, the United Nations Human Rights Organization is calling for his immediate release. There he is with a crying teddy bear. How deceptive. And a heartbreaking illegal decision. The heartbreaking decision was these two young boys born and bred to be murderers. The Palestinians should be ashamed of themselves, and they're not. So in Toronto, they're going to be having a Stab a Jew rally featuring the child prisoner's posters, letting him out of jail, so he can go out and stab some more Jews. These are some of the organizations which are supporting this Jew stabbing terrorist. And it doesn't surprise us, the Defense for Children International, CJPME, Women for Palestine, but what always amazes me is the support they're getting from independent Jewish voices. It's an embarrassment. He's not a child prisoner. He's a teenage terrorist. The world is a dangerous place, not because of those who do evil. On the contrary, because of those who look on and do nothing, said Albert Einstein. So don't sit around and do nothing. Be proactive. Be active. Join us at israelnow.ca. For the cause, help us fight anti-Semitism. And without any further ado, I'll be back later.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. I'm going to ask everyone who's joining us, if you could please share this program, share this link on the various platforms that you use, be it Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, email lists, WhatsApp groups. Please share it. We'll reach a lot more people, because this is an incredibly disturbing issue that's going on right now. Can you believe it? With such an upsurge right now in terrorist attacks, all of it in anti-Semitic terrorist attacks and intimidation against the Jewish community throughout the world and on campuses, there's a BDS campus group from York University that is taking the lead to have a rally praising this teenage terrorist who stabbed Jews. They say it was an allegation, stabbing Jews. This terrorist even admitted that his goal was to stab Jews. They're taught this. They're taught this in their schools. The PA supports this. Hamas, the Islamic Jihad, and all the other terrorist groups there, this is what they teach. They recruit kids. They have training camps to indoctrinate kids to stab Jews, kill Jews. After the IDF, in a lot of cases, neutralized the terrorists as he's committing an act of terrorism, stabbing Jews or trying to shoot Jews or different acts of terrorism. these BDS groups, they show a picture of the kid, of this teenager, various teenagers, and they say, innocent kid murdered by the Israelis, by the Zionists. And then our team and others, we take the social media and we show pictures of the very teen that they say is an innocent teen murdered by Israelis. We show pictures of him holding machine guns, in fatigues, praising the Islamic Jihad, etc., etc. We have to get the truth out. And when I say that, we have to get the truth out. We have to expose all the individuals and all the organizations that are promoting these stab a Jew rallies, and that's what they are essentially. We have a guest with us. He's a good friend, Ryan Belrose. We'll be discussing it. He just came back from Israel, actually, and he's got friends there that he's friends with the people I know in Israel, and he's very involved, advocating for Israel, and a wonderful trip he had. Let's bring Ryan on right now, and we'll talk maybe just briefly about how he enjoyed Israel, and then we'll talk about the issue that's going on right now. Ryan, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, Mayor. I got back here about a month ago, and my trip was amazing. Like,
right.
It's hard to put it into words. You know, I got to see a lot of people that I haven't seen for a couple of years. You know, I went over to Yishai Fleischer's house and had sushi and sat and visited with him and got to meet his kids. His kids are hilarious, by the way. Like they're great kids. But I mean, yeah, you know, like it's interesting because I have lots of friends in Israel, and it's funny because we do actually have a lot of very similar friends. Like, well, your friends are my friends pretty much. So
yeah,
pretty cool. Like it is. And look, I just want to say this because, you know, like everybody keeps asking me about my trip. I had a wonderful trip. I was there to try and basically make some bridges. There's some Israeli companies that we're hoping are going to work with some native reserves here. So we was laying some groundwork for that. We did a report on green hydrogen. You know, I did a virtual meeting with a company called Doral Energy. They're a really interesting company. I met with Tikkun Olam Makers. The name is kind of a little bit, you know, but the truth is they do some wonderful work. They make things for elders and for handicapped people, and it's just really cool what they do. So I was really lucky. I got to travel quite a bit. I went to I went to a bar mitzvah at the Machpelah. I mean, that's about. I can't think of a better place for a young Jewish person to become a full-on member of the Jewish people than the Machpelah. Like, and then imagine you're the kid and you have somebody like Yishai Fleischer rapping tefillin for you, and you know people like Colonel Richard Kemp are in the background, you know, clapping.
Right.
I mean, I was just looking at this kid now. Man, kid, you were one lucky little guy. So yeah,
that's amazing.
It was just an absolutely amazing trip. It was too short. You know, every time I go, I always joke
kidding.
It gets harder and harder to come home, right?
Right.
It's not the going, it's the coming back.
Right. So. Right. That's amazing. And it's amazing how when was the last time you were in Israel before this trip?
Would have been 3 years ago, just before the COVID nonsense started.
Before COVID, okay. So when you see like every year there's more development in Israel. I mean, like you look at Tel Aviv just booming, and Jerusalem how it's booming, and the high-speed train system now going on, and highways everywhere. It's like it's unbelievable what's going on there.
Well, I almost, like, in all honesty, I spend a lot of time out in the Gush, and there were places like I can remember when the only thing at the Someta Gush was the one building where English Cake was, the Rami Levy grocery store, and then they have this little hut in the front where the soldiers could go and have like cold drinks and stuff, right? I remember when that's all there was at the Somet. Now it's like a huge shopping mall. I mean, there's buildings everywhere, buildings going up all over the Gush, nice restaurants. I mean, it's amazing to see. It's wonderful. It's wonderful to see.
Yes, it's unbelievable, breathtaking. And they're not stopping with the construction. It's unbelievable what's going on, and with the discoveries of gas, and Israel's going to be exporting gas and selling. Who would believe it? And the technology hub of the Middle East, maybe of the world, even second to the Silicon Valley. It's you just see it in motion. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable to be there and see it and experience it when you're there.
Absolutely. Look, I was super lucky this trip because like every trip, I always joke, right? Every trip, I always end up doing something that I wasn't sure if I was going to do it or not. And then I end up doing it and having an amazing time. This time, a friend of mine, Lisa Hammerman Kane, she invited me to go out to Mitzpe Jericho. And I've been to Mitzpe Jericho, and I've been to the Overlook before a long time ago, I think on my second or first trip. But this time I went with her, and I got to have dinner with her and her husband, in the Yishuv. And the best part was then we went with the guy that's in charge of the excavations at Qumran.
Yep.
So Dr. David Ben Abraham. And I got to go, and he wrote a book actually about, the Ark of the Covenant and all this other stuff. So, I mean, like, how lucky am I that I get to go to where the Dead Sea Scrolls were found and get to tour with the archaeologist in charge of excavating the site and have that as my tour guide? It's so amazing. And like you said, and then I get to see all these places that are building, and it's so wonderful to see. And I found out that in Hebron, they're actually building an apartment building, an actual high-rise apartment. So, maybe my friends won't have to live in caravans anymore. So, I see this stuff, and
that's great.
It is. It's wonderful to see. And you know what? This new government is, for all the people that have been bashing it and, whining and crying about the end of democracy. So far, all I've seen is they've done good things. They took money away from the PA to give it to the victims of terror, which is something we're going to talk about. They've said point blank that Jews, it's no longer going to be considered a war crime for a Jew to build a balcony in Judea or Samaria. That's a big deal, man. That's a big deal. Because I have friends that have lived in the same size house now for 20 years because they're not even allowed to add a spare bedroom.
Right.
So yeah, it's like you said, build. I hope they build, and I hope they keep building.
It's wonderful. One other point I'll throw in before we get on to the topic, but our friend who's not with us anymore, Ari Fold, I remember discussing with him about Bezalel Smotrich. He was very close friends with Bezalel Smotrich, and he believed at the time that Bezalel is going to rise and become quite a force politically. And, if Ari was alive, there's no question about it that he'd be part of that team that Smotrich put together, and he'd be in the government. It would be 100%. Amazing to see, right? It would be incredible to see. So, as you're meeting with the guys, Yishai Fleischer and the other guys, great guys, you'd be meeting with Ari, who would be in the government. Unfortunately, Islamic terrorists murdered him, just like what we're talking about, these stabbers going around viciously, and they're being portrayed as sweet, innocent, cuddly examples.
Yeah. Well,
it's outrageous.
What Doc did at the very start of this is super important, and I believe it's vital, and I wish that more people would do this. We can sit here and talk about these people, about how they're terrorists, until we're blue in the face. Because the Arabs, and look, I know people are going to say, oh, don't be racist. Okay, so the Palestinians that call themselves Arabs and the Arabs that call themselves Palestinians, so I guess you could say it either way, they're open about this, but then when they're presenting their public face, they lie. So they will say, innocent teenager, and then you see the video, and I don't care who you are, when you see the video and you see them not just walking around, but literally hunting Jewish civilians. Right. They find a 12-year-old boy who just bought candy. There's no way that you can tell me that this is an act of resistance by stabbing a 12-year-old boy. Right. And this is what we're talking about. We can't just ignore this anymore. We can't talk about this in measured tones, and we can't talk about this or both sides kind of rhetoric and talking about, they're just resisting an occupation. No. Right. They're literally murdering innocent people. Ari was stabbed in the back from behind, right? And he chased that little bastard down, and he put an end to the nonsense. He didn't kill him, unfortunately. I wish he would have. But now that kid is getting paid, I think, 4,000 shekels a month by the Palestinian Authority.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
so where's the justice? Where's the justice? I lost a friend. His family lost a wonderful person. Israel lost a wonderful human being. And this kid gets paid 4,000 shekels a month. And then these idiots, like these morons at York University, they want to talk about how these are innocent people. The thing is, there's videos with this stuff. We're not making this up. Like, we're not sitting here saying, oh, all terrorists, all Arabs are terrorists. No, what we're saying is that some of these people are obviously terrorists. There's video of what they did. And if you Google their name, most of the time you can find the police reports that talk about what they did. And you can't tell me that these people at York didn't know exactly what Ahmad Mansara did. They know exactly what he did, and yet they will sit here and lie, bald-faced lie, about how he's an innocent teenager that the Jews murdered or the Jews shot or put him in jail. Like, it's the same rhetoric every time. And the only way to fight that is to post these videos, talk about it, do what you're doing. Make sure people know. Because if they don't know, I know a whole bunch of well-meaning people, and they if you ask them, they will tell you that they just want to defend human rights, and they get all about it. Yeah, but as soon as you say, okay, well, so you're going to go to this event with this kid, do you know what he did? And then they'll be like, no, what did he do? And then if they watch the video, they'll see this. They'll see this what Doc is talking about. He walked around hunting Jews to stab. Like, that's not innocent.
Exactly.
So,
the BDS, stands for Boycott, Divestment, Sanctions. When you're in Israel, you see how Israel is exploding. It's unbelievable how well it's doing, and even the Abraham Accords deals with Arab countries or Islamic countries, and it's reaching billions of dollars, and the gas deals and just technology deals, everything going on. You ask your average Israeli, do you feel anything from the BDS? And no, but not at all, Rich. You don't see anything going, nothing. But what is the purpose of the BDS? So when they're having these rallies, it really is stab a Jew or stab a Zionist or someone who supports Israel. They're encouraging anti-Semitism all over the world. Anti-Semitic incitement is what they're encouraging all over. They want campuses to be not safe for Jews or those who support Israel. So not only will they try to disrupt meetings and threaten Jews or supporters of Israel on campus, but they want it to go a step further. They will justify using knives to stab, anything to stab. They'll pose pictures of themselves with a rock ready to throw at anyone who supports Israel. That's what it's about. It's an anti-Semitic movement. And unfortunately, it is supported by major Islamic organizations as well. Yeah. And look, that is not to say, yeah, go ahead.
They don't make any bones about it. I mean, when you look, it doesn't affect Israel at all. And the only people that it does affect in Israel are Arabs. Like when BDS did their one big victory that they always talk about with SodaStream, what they actually did was cost a whole bunch of Arabs well-paying jobs. And the family that I stayed with when I first made my first trip to Israel, the dad used to work at that factory in Malay Adamim.
Wow.
And he told me point blank that was the best job he ever had in his life.
Right.
And he hated the BDS people, like hated. So, I mean, like that's what they've done. What they've done is they create anti-Semitism here, and it doesn't impact Israelis at all. Like you said, the Israeli economy is booming. Like the tech sector is incredible. They probably have the highest GDP they've ever had. Yep. I mean, BDS has not done, if their goal actually was to impact Israeli economics, they've failed miserably.
Right.
But the truth of the matter is their goal is to increase anti-Semitism in North America and in Europe. And they've done that. And they've made it mainstream. They've turned it from, like when I was a kid, everybody used to talk about far right, white, the right-wing wingnut, white supremacy, the extremists.
Right.
They used to talk about that all the time. And those were the people that tended to be the most violent back then. But now
Yep.
it's not that way at all. Now it's the lefties and the Islamists. They're the ones that are violent, and they're the ones that are attacking Jewish people. Like in New York City, it's not white supremacists that are
Right.
attacking New York City. That's black people, and most of
Yep.
them are either following that BHI nonsense, or they're following Islam, right? So, I mean, you can't make excuses anymore. Now we know what this is about. It's about demonizing Jews and making it so that it's mainstream to be anti-Semitic.
Right.
We got to fight
100%. Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And just I think about 3 weeks ago, there was I just found out it was on a Saturday night, just after Shabbat. The BDS was planning to go and try to disrupt an event at a yeshiva. So they had somebody representing an organization from Israel, and they wanted to go there and have a protest and enter inside and disrupt it as well. So I found out, so I posted about it, and I, had a call up. I had about an hour and a half, that was it. And I did get people, and I managed to organize that there was security there, and we had people there to confront them and make sure they're not getting in. We had some Israeli flags in that. They're floored by that there was such a fast mobilization. So whenever there's going to be this anti-Semitic nonsense going on, I'm calling on the community to come out and confront these people. And what we have to do also, we have to film everyone who's there. We have to get everything documented, what they're saying. Yeah. At this yeshiva, can you picture this? One person had, one of their main signs there was about the Holocaust. They said one Holocaust doesn't justify another Holocaust. Another Holocaust? They said, stop the Holocaust against the Palestinians. Their population is going up. There's no Holocaust going on. There's no genocide going on. There's no ethnic cleansing going on. There's nothing like that. You're in the Mamilla Mall, you see Jews shopping, Arabs and Muslims shopping. Nobody bothers the Muslims who are shopping or anything like that. You go on a bus or the trains in Israel, same thing. Everybody rides it. Nobody bothers anyone. This is what they say. They actually go in front of a yeshiva in the Jewish community and hold a sign accusing us of committing a Holocaust.
Yeah, they do it because they know, look, these people, they're trying their best to be as profoundly offensive as you possibly can.
Yep.
Like it would be like telling Indians that we're responsible for the genocide of the North Americas.
Right.
Like, and so what they do is they do this stuff because the sad thing is, look, it's effective, right? Because what they do is they want to get you so upset that you are no longer being rational. So you're angry because they want that optic, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because otherwise, what do we see when we watch these videos? We see them screaming and hollering and acting like complete idiots. And they do. Every single time you give them enough rope, they always hang themselves every single time.
Yep.
So what they want us to engage with them on a similar level. And they hate when we're calm and cool and collected. Like that video of you at York, the most effective part of that was when that guy was yelling and screaming at you and you smiled at him. And then you could tell he was so upset that he couldn't believe that you just smiled. He was waiting for you to start screaming and hollering back. When you smiled at him, I thought he was going to lose his mind.
Right.
And like you said, and while we're videoing this stuff, this is the key. Get video of all of this stuff. Take pictures of their offensive signs. Because if we just say it, it's one thing to hear me say, like those idiots that were saying all hail Hitler at me in Calgary. When you hear me say it, it's kind of funny because like all hail Hitler, like, are you that stupid? It's Heil Hitler, you morons. But without the video that I took, people be like, no way, that didn't really happen. The video doesn't lie. You can't fake a video like that.
Right.
So get video of this stuff and confront these people. We can't ever look. There's way too much of this in the Jewish community, and it's in the Native community too. And it's brutal. Like we see something we don't like, but instead of saying something, we just kind of shake our heads and walk away. Right. We can't do that because if we shake our heads, it gets worse.
Yeah. We have no choice. We have to confront it, and we have to do it smart.
Yep, we have to, absolutely. And that's
Gary. I think Gary has a short video to show on this topic about really what's going on with their recruitment, how they're brainwashed. It's just a few minutes. Is our doctor in the studio ready with the video?
He is, and we'll get you guys back on. This is just a little background of the training that the children go through in the alleged Palestinian territories on our land. And I'll give a little narration during it, and I'll get you guys back on the screen as soon as it's over.
Perfect.
The Palestinian Authority is transforming their kids into a culture of killers, as opposed to what children are supposed to be enjoying in their formative youth. Running, playing, laughing, rich or poor, black or white, all children are entitled to have a good childhood. But baby is God's opinion that likes to go on, said Carl Sandburg, but the Palestinians somehow didn't get through to them. While children are playing, running, studying, this is what they're doing. It kind of really is sad. It saddens me. It breaks my heart to see these cute little cousins who had a full life ahead of them, and instead of learning to be doctors or mechanics or workers or musicians or artists, they were born and bred to be terrorists. The Palestinian Authority and those who support them in America should be ashamed of themselves. There was a handout about two middle school students in the Palestinian territory how to save the Jews. You can't make this stuff up. And here's the videos they watch.
يطعن لجلك يما يطعن لجلك خيا والقرض عن عظمه وادخل فيها باب الجنة هبت ريح الجنة هبت ريح الجنة هبتنا من أصل حرابي
Glorifying the stabbers. And these are not grown-up, these are teenagers.
We are training the next generation of fighters who want to protect their homeland.
The camp is run by Hamas, the militant group which governs Gaza.
This goes on in Gaza and the Palestinian territories. And they're pleading for the release of the terrorist in jail because he's young. Well, he's 13, 14, now he's 19. He's been trained to kill Jews since he could walk. They just use the Nazi playbook. Get the kids hating Jews from an early age.
Dann tritt für mich ein, so wie ich für dich eingetreten bin.
History does repeat itself. It's very sad, but true. So a cousin of his was a terrorist who was shot and killed. So this is what he would like to do.
بتخوك اليهود يما يامير وبتموت.
هذه يما روحي للقط أي القط أستاذ متسنة المسجد أقصى أستاذ متسنة أي القط حرام أي القط حرام
It breaks my heart to see this.
أي القط أي الصلاة
There's some Palestinian children playing Let's Stone the House. So two dress up as chassis, and the others practice throwing rocks at them while they're praying. You cannot make this stuff up. Here's some Palestinian school children playing Let's Stab Some Jews. So what you'll see is some Jews just taking a stroll with yarmulkes, and they'll say some Hebrew words for authenticity in their after-school activities. So why is anybody surprised that Ahmed went on a stabbing spree when he was young? But whose fault is that? What he's saying is absolutely true. But the reality is it's the fault of his parents and of the Palestinians. They trained him to kill. And they show a cute little picture. Well, he's sitting alone in the dark, and he is indeed. He deserves worse. And they want you to help him get out so he can go and kill some more Jews. So anybody who can should show up with Israeli flags at this upcoming Stab a Jew telethon, because he's not a child prisoner, he's a teenage terrorist. And don't let your heart fool you.
ايش بتقولي لشباب الضفة؟
اطعم 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 اطعم.
Back to you guys.
Unreal. Look, Ryan, you know, you were in Israel, you see all the guys there, how they raised their kids, and it's like just night and day.
Yeah. You know, so when I was at that bar mitzvah, the group of us walked up to Yishai's tomb, and they're doing some work there. It's amazing work that's happening there, by the way. They've cleaned it up. The site looks night and day from what it used to look like. It's wonderful to go there. It's just really cool. But while we were walking down the hill, we walked through Tel Rumeida, and then after Tel Rumeida, there's a bunch of Arab houses where literally the UN, well, not really the UN, the Euros pay these people to stay in those houses because they don't want to live there.
Yep.
And those children, when you see the kids, this is exactly what happened. And it's funny because two of the girls that were there are kids that I helped teach at Club Z. And we're walking through, and these cute, absolutely gorgeous little kids, like they must have been 3-4 years old, just cute as a button, right? And one of them walks up to me and gives me a high five, right? Like she couldn't have been more than 3 years old. So then it's a little kid, so I give her a high five. And then, of course, all the little kids then, they all want high fives. So they all come running, and I'm giving them all high fives, and they think it's hilarious because I'm really big and they're really small. And one of the girls that was with me says, they don't seem very hateful, right? I think she was kind of being sarcastic. And I said to her, I said, no. I said, because this is before they've gone to the UNRWA schools. This is before they've been completely indoctrinated into the hate. Right now, they're just cute little kids. It won't be for 3 or 4 more years before they start getting, you know, basically pumped full of this infectious, disgusting hatred that they teach in these schools.
Right.
And she just looked at me. It's funny because she looked at me and she said, "You're serious?" And I'm like, "I'm dead serious." I said, "You come back here in 3 or 4 years and these little girls aren't going to be giving us high fives. They'll be throwing rocks at us and calling us names." And how do I know that? Because it happened to me before when I was in Hebron before.
Yep.
And 10 or 11-year-old kids yelling Yehudi, Yehudi, and throwing rocks at us, right? Like it's incredibly sad. I mean, look, I don't care who you are. Nobody wants to see children being used like this. Nobody wants to see, other than obviously Hamas and their ilk. But I mean, if you're a decent human being, you see videos like this and it's horrible to see. I don't want a child to think that their childhood should be playing games like stab a Jew. Like, what the hell, man? Like, what are they teaching these children? And you know what? I do blame, and people get mad at me when I do blame Israel for part of this too. Israel allows the UNRWA schools to continue, and Israel allows them to have control over the education system.
Yep.
And as long as they have that, there is no chance for any kind of two-state delusion. There's no chance for any sort of peaceful solution at all, because as long as they're being raised and indoctrinated with this hate and being taught that it's great to kill Jews and to stab, like you saw that they put posters up on where to stab a Jew so you can kill him. Like, how are we supposed to ever think that any of these people really want peace when they hand out candy when people are stabbed? They pay people based on how much money, or they pay people money based on how many Jews they've hurt or killed.
Yep.
Right. And then everybody's like, oh, well, we put them in jail. Yeah. Until there's time for some kind of prisoner exchange, and then you let them out. And it's not like they pick. Look, if it was one of those things where they picked the people that maybe didn't do such bad things, but I mean, Samir Kuntar, one of the most evil terrorists in the history of Israel, he was released.
Yep.
I mean, you can't tell me that there's any point in putting these people in jail. What's the point? So you can pay for it while the UN gives their family money? Like,
they get money, they get an education in jail, they get everything they want.
Yep.
Hopefully that's going to change.
Jail conditions there are ridiculously easy.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I have a friend actually who went to an Israeli jail, and he'd been in jail in Canada, and Canada's prisons are actually not known as really tough ones. But he said it was like night and day. He said jail in Israel is like, it's like going to summer camp practically.
Right.
Like, other than the fact that you can't go where you want to go. I mean, whatever. At this point, I don't know, Mir. It's frustrating. And, this terrorism stuff, like, they dropped a bomb where kids get off the bus to go to school.
Yeah.
And that was, I think, my third or fourth day in Israel. I was supposed to go to Jerusalem that morning with a bunch of kids from the Gush. They were going to show me how to get there. And I woke up, had a shower, and then I was still pretty jet lagged, so I fell asleep on the couch. And I don't think the kids wanted to wake me up, so they were like, just let them sleep. So they left. And meanwhile, I wake up, and then they're gone already. And I was like, oh, shit. So I threw all my stuff in my backpack, and I jumped on the bus. And then I get an alert on my phone. We're about 15 minutes out of Jerusalem. And the bus driver said, we're going to have to drop you guys off somewhere different. And I said, what happened? And the bus driver literally said, there was a bomb. And all I'm thinking is my friend's kids were on the bus ahead of me.
Wow. Sure.
But thank God they had already gotten on their bus and were on their way to their destination. But then another friend of mine on Facebook, Uri Pilkowski, his daughter, or Pilchowski, I don't know how to say it, his daughter apparently got a big cut on her arm from shrapnel. So, like, these people, they put a bomb at a bus stop timed specifically to harm as many kids as they could.
Right.
How messed up is that? Like, there is something just wrong with your head when you're thinking in terms of, how do I hurt the most children that I can possibly hurt?
Right.
And I don't care what these idiots at York, how they want to justify it. The bottom line is, we're in an existential war, and we're fighting people who think that it's okay to target women and children, and especially children. And they think that it's okay to use their children as soldiers, like children, actual children. So, I mean, this is
absolutely.
Yeah. If we're going to talk about right and wrong and moral and immoral, somebody needs to go there and challenge them. Somebody needs to go there and tell them, hey, you guys are telling us that we're promoting, all this, like, being horrible to children. Like, let's talk about this. Let's talk about Palestinian child abuse. Let's talk about it. Like, we need to do this. I think we need mainstream media to start actually covering this a little more fairly, right? Like, there's so many things we need to do, but thankfully, like what you're doing, you're shining a light on this, because a lot of the Jewish community in Canada doesn't even know. They have no idea about this stuff, because like, he just doesn't say anything. So.
I'm going to be sending a letter this week to the president of York University. I mean, we'll see where it goes, but I'm going to be demanding that this BDS group at York University that's promoting child soldiers and child terrorists and stab a Jew rallies is shut down at York, at the very least. Just go on the record, at least, for that. But the fact is, they shouldn't be allowed to operate on campuses, because that is what they're promoting. And it really should be against the law. I don't see how anyone could interpret it in terms of freedom of speech. This is incitement to stab Jews.
Yep.
That's all it is.
That's exactly it. Like, look, I think that probably the biggest problem that I have with this is that York University has an academic reputation.
Yep.
You know, so when somebody sees an event that's at York University, they think that it must have some sort of merit to it because it's at York University, right? So the university has a duty. It has a duty to make sure that it's not allowing these kinds of events to be promoted on its campus.
Yep.
And if there's people from the university who are involved in this, like teachers, professors, anybody that works on campus, they should have their, and look, I know this is going to sound terrible, but they should have their jobs put in jeopardy by this.
Yep.
If you're openly supporting terrorism on a Canadian campus, there's no freedom of speech involved there. You're openly supporting terrorism. That's against the law in Canada.
Yep.
So, anyway.
Well, listen, there's, it's hard to get the word out on, let's say, platforms like Instagram and Facebook. I'm always getting notifications from Facebook. You've been through it. But ever since Elon Musk has taken over Twitter, I have freedom on Twitter to speak the truth and get the facts out. It's a pleasure. So, and when I posted a notification about that the BDS was targeting this yeshiva about 3 weeks ago, the Or Chaim Yeshiva, on a Saturday night, I had over 25,000 views on that. So I'm able to reach some people. So I know, Ryan, you've been through the ringer with Twitter, myself too, but now it seems a lot different. Now we're able to post and advocate and get the truth out, get the word out.
I put in an appeal to have my account unbanned.
Yep.
I haven't heard back from them yet, so I don't know who's hoping. My problem with Twitter was always the same, that things were being, like, they had these standards, but nobody really knew what they were, and they weren't being applied equally or fairly. And I would see people, like, the reason I got banned, somebody had made an account pretending to be Ari Fuld 4 days after he was murdered.
Right.
And I reported that account, like, I think it was 13 days in a row. I reported it like 4 or 5 times a day, and they just didn't take it down. So then finally I started calling the person out, and then they said that I was harassing them. And then after they banned me for harassment, and then about a week later they took that account down. But they never unbanned me. So I guess we'll see what happens.
Well, but that's who was in office before. So you know what? There are people I know that got their accounts back, and I mean, my account is a new account. I'm just building up a following again on it. But it's nice that I see a change. I can't have the same kind of impact on Facebook. I know I get all kinds of restrictions and shadow bans, but on Twitter, I'm getting it out, and having somewhat of an impact that way. That's not the only device that we use. I mean, we have our YouTube channel, we have our email list that we send out email blasts, and we get the word out. But it is nice to be able to use a platform like Twitter that we can reach a lot of people, and again, reaching over 25,000 people views one night. That's impressive. So.
Oh yeah, for sure. Look, especially when you look at the fact that you're having to rebuild your entire following, right? Like, imagine if you had 5,000 or 6,000 followers already.
Right. Exactly.
No, it's frustrating. Look, the thing that really has kind of always bothered me about this is how easy it is for the Jew haters, right?
Yep.
Like in the old days, if you were an Arab dictator and your people were getting ready to throw your ass out, all you had to do was yell, it was the Zionists, do something about the Zionists. And immediately they start chanting, kill the Zionists, right?
Yeah.
Then forget all about the fact that they wanted to kill their leader 15 minutes ago.
Right.
Like on Twitter, all you got to do is say something about the Jews, and instantly it's insane. Like, you see these conspiracy theorists, and it always goes from there's something about this that isn't quite right. Like the official narrative is a little bit, smelly.
Yep.
It doesn't smell right. And then it's a real short jump for them to, well, that's because it was the Jews, right? Like, it's like, okay, I just said I think that there's something wrong with the mainstream narrative, and they immediately jump to, well, it must have been the Jews, right?
Right. No,
So
absolutely.
like, to spread anti-Semitism is just so much easier than fighting it. Fighting it, we're trying to use the truth. We try to be careful about, not saying things that are purposefully malicious. They have no such compunctions. Like these idiots in York are literally lying through their face. Like they're saying stuff like they're just innocent children. They didn't do anything. It's like, okay, well, here's a video of them stabbing people. Like,
yeah.
Absolutely.
Listen, we're pretty much running out of time now. So, Ryan, final words.
Yeah. You know what? I think that more and more people are starting to see this stuff. Like on this trip, what I noticed was I was banned on Facebook. So I didn't get a chance to post what I was doing. I didn't get a chance to really write a lot. But I noticed a lot of my friends that aren't even involved in the politics stuff, they were actually actively asking me questions about Israel. They were asking me, what did you see when you were there? What was going on? And as terrible as it is to say, the fact that I was I was very lucky that I wasn't involved in a terrorist attack. I want to be very clear with that. I wasn't involved at all. I didn't, I was on a bus that was, half an hour away. So it's not like I was close to it. But I think that when people who know me saw that I posted myself as okay, because I had friends that were genuinely, they knew that that's where I was going to be at that time, and they were freaking out. And it was banned on Facebook, so I couldn't do anything. But for some reason, Facebook let me still mark myself as safe, right? I think once people start seeing, hey, wait a second, I know that guy. That would, and let's be honest, there were probably a few people that were a little disappointed that I wasn't there.
Right.
But I mean, there were a lot more people that were really glad that I wasn't. And I think once we start getting that more engagement, like when the Jewish community has more friends and allies that are not Jewish, and those people start asking questions. Look, it doesn't take a genius. Like when I saw the name Ahmad Manasseh, all I have to do is punch his name into Google and it tells me exactly what he did.
Right.
So they can talk all they want about how he's an innocent child, but the truth is out there. And all we need is a few more people to say, hey, wait a second, come on. Like, you're saying that he's an innocent kid, but there's video of him stabbing people. That's not innocent where we come from. So we got to be able to call that stuff out, but we got to be able to do it like you said, fight smart, right? Don't just argue for the sake of arguing. Find the people who have an actual following on social media, and when they post or retweet any of this garbage, that's where you say it. And be careful. Like don't be rude, don't be angry, because that they love that. Just be factual. Say, hey, listen, you're saying that he's an innocent teenager. Well, here's a video of him stabbing people. Does that look innocent to you? Because where I'm from, stabbing people is a crime.
Absolutely.
Anyway, thanks for having me on, Mayor. I like coming on the show. I think you guys are doing really important work. And you and Doc, I love you guys. You guys are awesome. So
thank you very much, Ryan. When we sign off, just hang on, because we'll come back on. We'll have a little discussion about.
For sure.
Yeah. Well, everyone, thank you very much for joining us, and please share this.
Let me play a quick song to end with, because the answer, of course, that we all know, as Ryan said, is we need to move to Israel. And, I'm afraid that when I go, next time my children see me, they're going to have to visit me in Israel. So here's a great little tune, which we have permission to use, so we don't get dinged for copyright infringement.
Left it all to be with you. Distant dreams have now come true. Walk the streets of legends told. We've come home. We've come home. We've come home. And we'll never stand alone. sapphire seas and golden sand, a place called home. We've come home, we've come home to a land of our own. After 2,000 years, we are home. ארצי מולדתי, על אדמתי צעדתי, עברי עתידי, זה ביתי. We come home, we come home, and we'll never stand alone. After 2,000 years, we are home. We come home, we come home to a land of our own. After 2,000 years, we are home. After 2,000 years, we are home. קולות בלבב בנימה, נפש יהודה